Let's play a game, shall we? When you hear the phrase Nigerian police, what thoughts come to your head? Are they positive ones or are they negative ones? Today, we're joined by a superintendent of the Nigerian Police Force, and his name is Mr. Enyinna Chukwueke. Welcome, Enyinna.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. It's been a long time in the making.
Yes.
Finally, I'm here. So, good.
So, if you don't mind me asking, you had so many options of different, lines of work to get into, different things you could have done. Why did you decide to become? Why did you decide to join Nigerian Police?
To become a policeman.
Yes, why?
The simple answer is it's basically that's what I wanted to do. Right? I had options. There are other things I could have done, but I actually wanted to become a police officer. Why is a more difficult question, right? So at the time, I was a young man. I was back from the UK. I was living in Nigeria, and I felt like I needed to do something that would contribute to the country somehow, right? I felt this weight of responsibility, which I'm sure lots of young people feel all the time, right? Like, how are we going to do something about this country? And I felt like, I have to do something too. And like a rational assessment made me feel like where I would be the most useful would be in something like the police force, right? That's a good rational answer in hindsight.
And looking back,
yeah.
do you think you made the right decision?
Yeah. So anybody who is any police officer will tell you there's no other job in Nigeria that they could have done. Right? So once you enter, you don't enter. Like there's no going back. Like I wouldn't swap it for anything else. Right there. The Nigerian Police Force is the most Nigerian institution there is. It's as old as the country. It's definitely the institution with the biggest national reach, right? There's police in every local government in Nigeria. There's police on every major highway. There's police everywhere. So it's representative of who Nigerians are. Nothing is more representative of Nigerians than the Nigerian Police Force.
It's funny you say it's representative of who Nigerians are, because when you ask anybody or you just, look around, there's this negative view of the Nigerian police force. Many people would say the Nigerian police is corrupt, that they do things that are illegal, they treat people badly. What do you have to say about this?
So, and this is going to be a very controversial take. All those things are true. The Nigerian police force is corrupt. The Nigerian police force is brutal. The Nigerian police force occasionally does things that are illegal. But the Nigerian police force is not an outlier in Nigeria, right?
Okay, what do you mean by that?
I mean that the police is no more corrupt than Nigeria itself, right?
Why do you say that?
Like, it's my genuine experience, right? So I was a civilian. I don't come from a police background. My father is not a policeman. I don't have I was a civilian joining the police, right? I had these expectations of, okay, I'm waiting for the part where they bring in all the corrupt people. Or I'm waiting for the part where they're like, okay, this is how we become corrupt, right? And I kept waiting for this shoe to drop and it never really did. What you realize is that the police is actually just representative of the people from Nigeria. The police is corrupt, yes, but it's no more corrupt than a bank or a petrol station or any other ministry or department or government. Or it's not even more corrupt than a church or a university or a school. The only difference is that police, we have coercive force, right?
You have guns.
We carry gun. We have this coercive force. So arguably, there's a higher standard that we should attain.
That's expected.
Yeah. So we have to do more to get to that higher standard. But saying police is corrupt, I can't really argue with you. Yeah, police is corrupt, but so is the POS woman at the end of my street. She's also corrupt, right? We deal with this base level of corruption in Nigeria everywhere, and yet somehow expect something different in something that's important like police. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Do we expect this one to be different when everything else in our lives is that corrupt?
So with this statement that you've made that, Nigerian police force is corrupt just like any other thing, like the church or your POS woman on your street. Okay, so would that also then mean that maybe the Nigerian army is corrupt also?
So I can't speak actually to the corruption of the army or anything like that, but I would expect there is a base level of corruption that goes on in the Nigerian army because it's made up of Nigerians, right? And we have this general attitude to law and the rule of law that didn't start with government, right? It didn't start with police or army or whatever. So I can't say, I don't have evidence. I've never seen any army man doing something. I'll be like, that's corrupt. But I have every reason to believe that there is a base level of corruption in every organization in Nigeria. If you allow me, let me tell you one story.
Okay,
right?
yes, please. I love
One
stories.
of the first cases I ever investigated when I was in Enugu was a case where a petrol station manager had reported one of his staff for stealing products and selling them behind his back, right? We arrested the guy, he confessed, we took a statement, this, that. In the course of investigation, I asked the guy, how much is your salary, right? This is a petrol station attendant at a very popular petrol station in Enugu, and he was being paid like 7,000 naira a month.
What?
Yeah, like 7,000.
What year was this?
This was in 2018, maybe, 2018.
7,000 naira a month.
7,000 naira a month, right? And yet, so the people who came to beg for him, which is a common thing, right? You arrest somebody, people come and beg, and like, oh, yeah, let's release him, da. The people who came to beg for him, they offered to repay all the money to the shop, to the petrol station, if they would give the man his job back. And I stopped and asked myself, why do you even care? This job is paying him 6,000 naira or 7,000 naira a month or whatever it is, right? The manager then explained to me that he knows that 7,000 naira is not enough money for that guy to live in a month.
Then why is he paying him that?
Because they expect petrol station attendants, and this is not unique to that petrol station, it occurs all over Nigeria. They expect them to make their money by cheating the customers, by short selling fuel, Sometimes you see them and they're just pumping air, right? The difference between what the meter reads and what they actually sell, that's how they make their money. This is corruption baked into the fabric of a private enterprise, a petrol station, right? And that is just like a microcosm of the whole of Nigeria. Everything we are doing has a base level of corruption baked into it. A wiser man than me called it the prebendal state, right? Where everybody is given a prebend, a little office where you're allowed to go and make money there as much as you want. But it's not unique to the police or to any sector of Nigeria. It's a Nigerian problem.
How do you feel as a superintendent having to say and agree with that phrase that, yeah, Nigerian police is corrupt, everywhere else is corrupt?
So I'm a realist, right? And I'm not speaking on behalf of the police, so I'm just speaking from my experience. I'm a realist. So I have to look at the situation as it actually is. I investigate cases all the time. If I pretend to myself that there isn't a base level of corruption going on in Nigeria, I would not be a very good investigator. Right? I have to deal with the reality of the facts as they are. If I expected that none of the men who are under my command would be corrupt, I would not be in good control of my men. I have to be realistic about what I'm dealing with, the situation, the condition of ground, as we say. So yeah, and this is not unique to Nigeria, right? There is corruption almost everywhere, right? The difference is that the culture we have of corruption in Nigeria is very tolerant. We tolerate high levels of corruption. So for example, if you were in the UK, right, and you worked for the NHS, and say, for example, you started taking home an extra roll of toilet paper, once or twice a week or something like that, that's probably an acceptable level of corruption in the UK. Yeah. They will let that slide, right? In Nigeria, we also allow that to slide, but we also allow it to slide where you start taking 10, 15, 20 rolls of toilet paper.
There's the whole bulk to go and sell it.
So we have a higher tolerance for like that base level corruption. It's a problem.
So, what kind of training is involved in becoming, a Nigerian police officer or on taking on a role like a superintendent?
So, my role is a little bit unique. I'm a superintendent of police. I work at the National Cybercrime Center, right?
Wow, that sounds quite cool.
Yeah. So, in addition to like the regular police training, which you have to do, I also did some very specific training in cybercrime and digital forensics. But typically, a police constable is trained for 6 months to 12 months at a police college. They're given a curriculum that includes things like investigation, police duties, law, human rights, and then a lot of marching. You march a lot.
What's all the marching for?
Um, what's all the marching for? It's a very good question.
Sorry.
What's all the marching
It
for?
reminds me of like primary school when you're marching.
So I guess there's the physical fitness element to it, right? But marching basically teaches you discipline and order and how to obey commands, right? So you're doing things where you're literally just responding to the voice, right? Change your step, you change your step. Left wheel, you left wheel. Right wheel, you right wheel. Salute in threes, you say. You're training your psyche to respond to command. So it's I didn't enjoy the marching at all. Let me not lie. I hated it from beginning to end. One would think that is using marching that you'll catch the thieves. I don't know. But it has its part. It has its part in the curriculum, yeah.
What level of education do you need to join the police force?
So there are actually 3 entry routes into the police, although the other 2 are less in use now. Typically, there's a recruit level where you need to be like a school set holder. That's basically like GCSE or WAEC or something like that. Then there's an inspector cadre where you need to have a HND or OND. And then there's a cadet cadre where you have to be a university graduate. But then the Nigerian Police Force opened the Nigerian Police Academy in Woodhill, which is a degree issuing institution. So basically, since they started minting degree holding officers, there hasn't been another intake of degree holders. Okay. Right? So most of the recruitment you see now is constables, which technically they only need to have a school certificate or like school leavers, something like that, WAEC or something like that. But in practice, most of the people who are joining as constables are degree holders. Okay. Most of them, yeah.
There's this belief, well, let me not call it a belief. You've been online, you've seen different things there. And I've seen some cases online of people talking about how they were robbed by the Nigerian police, or recently with that comedian called Iyo. He said he was kidnapped by the Nigerian police. They exploited him of 6 million naira and then, beat him up and dumped him somewhere.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on these kind of cases?
So these kind of cases, I can't comment on any specific case because I don't know exactly what happened, right? And not to say that people lie, but people lie. I'll give you an example I've had, right?
Okay.
There was a case where I had to go to Onitsha to arrest somebody. We had invited him, he didn't come, and then we had to go to Onitsha to arrest him. We went to Onitsha, we weren't able to get him, but we left messages at his house and that kind of stuff. Only for me to receive a petition against me next week, naming me by name. How he got my name, I don't know. That I came to Onitsha, I broke down his door, I did this, I did that, I took his, we have a base level of lawlessness in Nigeria. And a disrespect for the law, right? If police invite you, go. If police was like, go. When you drag out a matter, it raises the stakes, right? So this specific case, I can't comment on it, as in police brutality and how people are arrested and this and that. All I would say is that it's a tough job to police Nigerians.
Why do you say that?
Because we are a lawless bunch by nature, right? Everybody wants to know who you are. Who are you that you are telling me to do X, Y, Z? Right? It's difficult. We're difficult people. We don't readily submit to lawful authority. And there are people who have learned the system. And I'm a lawyer, right? I was trained as a lawyer. But some of our lawyers are doing the worst, right? You get invited by police, you go and meet a lawyer, say, oh, look, I was invited by police on so date. I'm looking for a lawyer to follow me to the police station to go and answer questions. The lawyer will tell you, don't go. It's better we write fundamental rights against these people. That the court should restrain them from inviting me, from harassing me. I'm like, is this the purpose of this fundamental rights? Is this why we introduced this procedure in 2009? Is this why we did it? So we are messing up a lot of things. That's on one side, right? Nigerians are actually hard people to police in Nigeria. The other part is police brutality. It's a difficult topic to discuss, and thank God I'm here as a student. Let me take off my police hat and put on my hat as a an Oxford University student of public policy.
First of all, you acknowledge that police brutality.
I'm not admitting anything, right?
Okay.
I'm just saying that you said there are reports
Of police brutality. Yes.
I see reports too.
Okay.
Right? I can't speak to specific incidents, but there are definitely reports from Amnesty International, all sorts of groups that have tried to catalog police brutality over the years. They come to different conclusions, but let me just take it at face value, right? That there is this problem of police brutality. It's deeper than just a conversation about the police. We then have to look into the origins of the police. Where did we start? What were we created for? The Nigerian Police Force is a colonial organization. It was created by white people to help them maintain political order in Nigeria.
Wow.
It wasn't made to solve your crimes. It wasn't made to answer your problem. It was made to ensure that when the British Empire was extracting their goods from the area we now call Nigeria, they received as little resistance as possible, right? The motto of the police now is police is your friend. That motto was deliberate. It was deliberate to try and move us away from that colonial history, right? Police actually ought to be your friend. We want to be your friend, right? But then we're in the process, let me say, of moving away from coercive policing to cooperative policing. But it takes two to tango, right? If you want a cooperative police, you have to be a cooperative population, right? We have to love ourselves again. We have to make it so that people respect the authority, respect the uniform, respect the people, so that there is no excuse for the use of force. The problem we have in the police is that there are often legitimate reasons why we do wrong things. That sounds crazy, right?
Yes.
But what do you do if you go to arrest somebody and the person says, I'm not going to follow you? The person breaks bottles, says, I'm ready, let all of us die here.
Sorry.
What do you do? Right?
Has that happened before?
Yes.
Oh.
Like, so often. So again, and this is not a criticism of the police force, but I think we need to review our curriculum, like the training manuals and stuff, right? When I was in college, they taught us how to effect an arrest, right? And it essentially is to tell the person you're under arrest while placing a hand on their shoulder or other convenient place, right? That authority of placing your hand on their shoulder and telling them you're under arrest is supposed to be sufficient. Right? Again, this was probably designed for a different era.
Without the guns, right?
Yeah, and of course, without guns. So even in practice, right, if I'm armed with an assault rifle, that process of putting my arm on your shoulder risks both of us, right? You could try and take that rifle from me. There could be a misfire. Anything could happen, right? So clearly that standard operating procedure is not effective
Anymore.
For now. So we need to go back to the drawing board and review some of these things.
What
right?
are the manuals you guys use to train? Like, what year are they from? How modern are they? Don't tell me they're the same things from.
So I'm sure they've been reviewed.
Okay.
But like most organizations, police is conservative, right? So change happens slowly. Okay. So I'm sure there is, and I know, in fact, not that I'm sure, I know there is a lot of work being done by the training department and all sorts of people to review the curriculum for its practicality, a bigger emphasis on human rights and all that kind of stuff. But what you receive in training is only one part of it, right? What you see in practice is something completely different. Police brutality is terrible, right? There is no good reason for police to infringe upon the rights of citizens. But in Nigeria, we've created a situation where sometimes there is, right? And if you have those fringe cases where there's a legitimate reason why we would have to go outside the normal standard operating procedure, you then open the door for all sorts of illegitimate things.
Why do you guys have to carry around assault rifles? I mean, even if you're imitating, what the colonialists taught us, like here in the UK, they don't carry around assault rifles. Why do we have to carry them around in Nigeria? What's the purpose of that?
Let me clear up something, right? What the colonialists did in Africa in their colonies was not an attempt to create the societies they have here in Africa, right? You're very right. The police in the UK would never carry assault rifles around, right?
Scares
Because
people.
no, because they have a different standard of policing. They have a mutually cooperative type of policing. It's police by consent, right? They never attempted to create those institutions in Africa. They never attempted to create police by consent in Nigeria. In fact, they deliberately wanted the other. It's deliberately coercive, right? And when we gained independence, we as a people didn't do enough to change that basic social contract, right? And arguably, it got worse with the military rule and the militarization of the police. That's one argument, right? On the other hand, an assault rifle is actually a very useful weapon for the very varied terrain of crime we have in Nigeria. Right? There are lots of situations where a whistle and a baton will not solve the problem.
Can you give me an example?
So I'm not going to give you specific examples. I'm just going to try and paint like a broad, or give you a little bit of my experience, right?
Yeah.
So when I was a police officer again in Enugu, I was not on duty. There was a show by a popular Nigerian musician who is very, very popular in Enugu. I won't call his name because it's probably not a good look for him, right? He had a free show in Opera Square, which is like the big public square in Enugu. It was free for all people to attend, right? I went there as a civilian. I wasn't on duty. I went there with a couple of my friends. I drove down. We went to Opera Square. This is young people, right? Not criminals, not hip-hop, not anything. This is young people who gathered themselves together in Opera Square to listen to some music. Within 1 hour, it had descended into chaos. People were robbing people in the square. Women were being raped in the square, right? There's a level of lawlessness that we Nigerians like. I don't know why, right? And in that situation, that day, I was there. People didn't know I was police, but I'm police, I'm there. Obviously, there hadn't been suitable security arrangements made. If you're going to have a free concert, this one is to every artist. You think you're going to every parent. First of all, don't allow your child to go for a free show that's in the night. Number one. Number two, to the artists, try and arrange adequate security if you're going to do that kind of thing, right? But I was there, and I know that in that situation, there's nothing a baton and a whistle would do for anybody.
Speaking to you, you don't seem like the idea I have of what Nigerian police force is. I don't mean to sound rude or insulting, but
no, but I think that's maybe so. One, it's also people's fault, right? People don't make effort to get to know the police beyond the police officers they see on the street, right? And two, it's also it's also the fault of the police ourselves. We need to do more to show who we actually are, right? Like I said, the police is the most representative organization in Nigeria. If I don't want to just be calling out stats, right? But I can tell you confidently that no organization in Nigeria employs as many women as the Nigerian police force does. No organization in Nigeria employs as many lawyers as the Nigerian police force does. No organization in Nigeria is as varied in terms of ethnicity and tribe and religion, and this is the Nigerian police forces. There are more princes and princesses, like people of traditional royal blood in the Nigerian police force than in probably any other organization. Maybe the army by proportion, but by pure numbers, the police force, right? The problem is that because we are a people-facing organization, right? And the people amongst us who face the public, like the public-facing part of us, is not always our best foot, right? It has allowed a conception of what the police is like to be built, and it's not necessarily true.
How do you expect us as people to respect the Nigerian police or like the Nigerian police or treat them differently when all we see online or see even sometimes on the street is, okay, Nigerian police maybe accidentally discharging in a bus or Nigerian police asking for 50 naira. And I'm sure now it's increased to other things. So how do you really expect us to have respect for Nigerian police with all those things that are going on? You can't.
So one big thing I would say, right, is don't form your opinion by what you see online. If you are living in Nigeria, go to your local police station. Go and see the people there. Make an effort to get to know them, right? I know it sounds strange, but it takes two. Police is your friend, but you also need to be a friend to the police, right? Lots of police stations have PCRCs, which are like Police Community Relations Committee or something like that. It's an avenue for people in the local communities to actually get to know the police officers at police stations and assist where they can. Like, come in, this is your point of need, this is our point of need. I would encourage people to partake in that, right? I would also encourage people to look at the police officers we have who do well, right? They may not seem like the majority, but there's something called critical mass, right? Even if 90%, according to you people, 90% of us are bad, that 10% that you're ignoring could actually be the solution to all our problems, right? Of course, it's not like that. Of course, it's not like that.
10% can't take over 90.
No, that's not what I mean. 10% could, right? So now let's not have a Bolshevik argument. But I mean that the perception that people have of the police is based off a very small portion of the police. It's only based on the public-facing elements of the police that they see, which is usually determined by periods of problem. You're not seeing the police in your good days, right? The day you're celebrating your victories or when something good happens, nobody remembers the police. The police, like doctors, like all these other emergency things, only interact with you when there's a problem. And those interactions outsizely shape people's perception of what the police is actually like.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about all these bad news, all these videos. So, of course, if people see a police officer misbehaving, right, and film it, it is immediately viral content. But nobody films the occasions when a police officer helps them with their broken down car, right? Or somebody helps, or a policewoman who's been at the same point for 15 years helping children cross a road to get to school safely every day. Those stories don't make the news, right?
Did they happen?
So you're asking me, I'm asking you. I'm telling you they do happen, right? When I was in Enugu, and I keep going back to this because that was the period of my life when I was in frontline policing. I worked in a police station, right? Every Sunday, we were on special duty at a Catholic church very close to our station. We helped people cross the road, right? Nobody will ever film us doing that, helping people cross the road from the car park to the church, making sure nobody gets run over. No, those stuff don't go viral. The good things you do don't go viral. And it's also a message to all the police officers out there. The good stuff you do don't go viral. It's only the day when they catch you, that's when
They'll go viral.
That's when it goes viral, right?
I guess what I'm saying is comes from a place of, to be honest with you, throughout my whole childhood until now, I still have a fear of Nigerian police. And that's because growing up, hearing about how, this happened or they shot this person or they did this, they did that. Whenever I used to see them with their guns, I always used to feel fear. And I'm sure there are other people who have had that, and it's hard to change something like that.
Yeah, so it's a big cultural thing. The relationship between the people and the police, it comes from this colonial era, right? And we've not been able to really change it. And it's not just, there's no lip service you will do. It has to come organically. People actually have to come to change this relationship. And it's also to do with how we police. And I know in recent years there's been more efforts towards community policing and all those type of things. But I think those are the measures that actually bridge that gap. There has to be, in the long term, a demilitarization of the policing, right? It's scary. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She too is scared of seeing policeman with gun.
Even though
Even though she knows I'm a policeman, she knows that these people are police and because a gun is a weapon that kills people, right? And it's scary. Right? But hopefully we'll get to the point in Nigeria where we have enough of rule of law, a laws-based society, that policemen don't need to carry AK-47s around. Hopefully we'll get there.
Speaking to you, you don't sound like the normal Nigerian policeman. I guess because there's this belief that Nigerian policemen are not very educated.
Okay, so one, again, I will, without overflogging the point, I'm not that atypical of the Nigerian police force, right? Even in my course, amongst my classmates, I'm not the only one who went to a foreign university. There are a lot of us. I'm not the only one who is called to bar. There's a lot of us. I'm not the most educated person out of my classmates. When we went to police academy, there was a couple of people that had PhDs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they're joining the police.
And we're joining the police at that point with PhDs. One was a PhD candidate and one had his PhD, right? That were joining the police alongside me. Amongst my classmates, one of them is the son of a very famous royal father from Kano, right? He had all the opportunity in the world, yet he joined the police, right? The perception that people have of the police doesn't mirror what we actually look like. I will say that obviously there's a bit of disparity between what we call the rank and file, which is generally the corporals, the constables all the way to inspector, and then the officer cadre, which is like the assistant superintendents and above, right? Which again is a relic of our colonial police force, right? So when the British were policing in Nigeria, they didn't want a situation where a white man would have to say yes, sir, to a black man. Right, so they created these multiple entryways into the police so that the British would join as officers and the Nigerians would join as rank and file. Right? When we gained our independence, we didn't break that system. So now you have tiers of officers, whereas the police structure that the white man created for himself here in Britain, right? They don't have that system. Everybody joins as a constable. Even if you have a PhD before you came, you still join as a constable. Your qualifications then matter in how you're promoted and this and that and it creates so a lot of the issues we have still trace back to that our colonial roots. Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about how police officers are paid? How much does a normal Nigerian police officer receive a month?
So again, the information is publicly available. We are paid according to public service pay grades.
And how much is that?
But it depends on your rank. It depends on when you joined and how many years you've been on. You start on this like grade level 6 or something, and then there are lots of steps, and you get to grade level 7 and lots of steps, and grade level 8. I think currently I'm on grade level 11, maybe 10 or 11 or whatever. But it's not good. Let me just tell you.
Oh, you did all that long talk. You just
I was just trying to say that like there's a whole system, right? And if you were keen to know how people were paid, you can go and investigate, right?
Okay.
But it suffice to tell you that the pay is not good, right? Right from the bottom rung of the police, like the constable pay, all the way to the inspector general of police, the pay is not good, right? You can say you can think what it means, right? So let's take, for example, the Inspector General of Police. I don't know how much he gets paid, right? But I can guess. The Inspector General of Police is the CEO of a company that employs nearly 500,000 people.
Wow.
Right? Let's put that into perspective. No company in Nigeria employs 500,000 people. Think of the biggest company you know, Transcorp, UBA, whatever. None employs 500,000 people. How much does the MD of Access Bank get paid? How much does the MD of Nigerian Bottling Company get paid, right? Yet you have somebody who is the CEO of a company of 500,000 employees, right? How much does he get paid? And it cascades all the way down to the bottom level. So we have to think about incentives and how those incentives affect performance.
So Sowore has recently been talking about the amount Nigerian police force are paid. What's your take on that? Do you have any comment?
So like I said, Nigerian police force pay is an issue, right? You get what you put in. Better pay will produce better officers. Sowore, he's a journalist, he's an activist, he's a politician. I think it's dangerous to attempt to be all three at the same time because, you know, a journalist is supposed to hold these other two to account. An activist is supposed to hold this guy to... You can't be all three, right? That's what I would say. Although on this particular issue, I'm sure lots of police officers will agree with him, right? Police pay, police pension, these are things that are at the forefront of police officers' minds. What I will also say is that, are you sure Sowore is interested in you? Is it because he cares about the fate of police officers? Is that why he's agitating for this thing? Is there some other interest he has as a journalist, as an activist, or perhaps as a politician that is causing him to push this thing? On the other hand, and this is my personal opinion, it's not the opinion of the police or the National Cybercrime Center, the police overrate Sowore. They act like the man is important, right? If Sowore writes an article about the police force, everybody's put on high tension. Sowore says he's going to organize a protest in front of force headquarters, everybody's put on high tension, right? It reveals something to me about the age profile of the decision makers in the Nigerian police force. They are old men because young people know that Sowore doesn't really have any, like, he has limited clouts within the space, right? But for old people who kind of grew up on Sahara Reporters, they give him an outsized view of what he's actually means to people on the streets. So if anybody's listening to that matter, the guy should just allow the guy to be told, like, he doesn't change the price of beans in the market. But he raises a valid concern of police officers. People are concerned with our pay, with our pension. I think it's a bit deeper than that, but those things are front burner issues for police officers.
And what about the matter with the IGP?
So I can't comment specifically, right? I think Sowore alleges that the IGP should have retired by age, but I think maybe he's misreading the Police Act 2020 as passed, which essentially, again, this is not the view of the police or the view of anybody. This is my view as a lawyer and as a public service guy. I think the act makes it so that the position of the IGP is by appointment, and it's a 4-year appointment. It's a little bit outside regular public service, and so it's akin to being appointed the CBN governor or appointed some other position that isn't tied to your public service record. So I think Sowore is a bit mistaken on the actual law in this case. But again, that's my opinion.
Okay. And do you think that maybe the wage issue is probably what's causing, some police officers to ask for lunch money or this or that from, people driving by?
Maybe, but no. The wage issue is one thing. Police welfare is one thing. And like I said, it's a front burner issue for police officers. But for me, that is not the main driver of corruption. The main driver of corruption in the police is actually a related but distinct issue. It's the operational budget, right? The money for fuel, the money for paper, the money for generator, the money that keeps police stations and police formations running day to day, right? And again, this is just from my personal experience. I was an admin officer in a police station in Enugu. I was an admin officer for the Counter-terrorism unit at force headquarters. I can't speak to what happens above me, but at the level at which I was able to see, the money that is given is not enough to do the work.
Is that why sometimes when you come and report a crime, they tell you to bring fuel money for them to go and investigate?
So again, it goes back to this issue of legitimate cause, right? So that exact example in the UK, say you went to your local police station here in the UK and you told them, oh, I think there's a burglar in my house. I need you to come and respond immediately and see if we can catch this guy or do something, right? And they told you, sorry, ma'am, there isn't enough petrol in the Ford Cruiser. So would you be able to assist us?
I don't think anybody would ever say that.
Right? So one, they would never ask. Two, even if they asked, you'll never give them that money.
No.
Right? Because it would never be a legitimate thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? But in Nigeria, you can imagine a situation where you go to the police station and you're like, come there, I think there's a thief in my house, let's go and catch him. And the policeman tells you, honestly, there's no fuel in our vehicle. Right? And you then think the legitimate response is to provide that fuel so that you can go and arrest the suspect. Once you allow for a legitimate case, no matter how fringe it is, it opens the door for illegitimate cases. So you now approaching the police station and you go there and you say you want to report a crime and the man says there's no paper or open file or some other euphemism, right? You don't know whether you're in that extreme legitimate case where truly there is no paper, truly there is no foil, truly there is no file, right? Or if you're in some other situation and the person is taking advantage of you. So the solution is to ensure that in Nigeria, there is never a legitimate reason for a police officer to demand money from you.
By fixing the budget.
Maybe that's it. It's again, we are discussing things that are above my pay grade. Me, I'm just a small boy, right?
But you have experience.
I want to grow in the work. All I can tell you is from my experience, right? We need a Nigeria where no citizen ever legitimately has to use their money to support the police. Right? If we reach that level where somebody gets to the police station and the police say they have no fuel, and rather than the person thinking, let me put my hand in the pocket and give police fuel, I would rather raise this matter to the highest office. So let's go back to the England situation, right? You get to your local police station, you tell them I have this emergency, they tell you there's no fuel. Your mind wouldn't even go to thinking, let me give them money for fuel. No. Your mind would be like, I should call my MP.
Yeah.
I should call the Prime Minister. I should call the newspapers. I should raise this. There should be an inquiry. Why is there no fuel? Is it a budgeting issue? Is it an allotment issue? Has it been misappropriated? Has something happened, right? We as Nigerians need to get to that level where rather than complaining, saying, oh, I have to chuck in the side pocket and give this man 20K. We have to ask the deeper, realer questions. That how is it that we have these formations out on the front line that don't have their operational needs ready to go?
I'll just ask you a few more questions before I dive into cybercrime, which obviously is your area of specialty.
Yeah.
Okay, I've spoken to several people who they've been in situations where they've seen maybe someone get run over by a car or something, and then they want to help, but they're afraid that if they help, if they report, if they do anything, if they get involved, they'll probably get arrested. What does someone do in that kind of situation?
What I would beg Nigerians is that please be a good Samaritan, right? We're all Christians, we're all Muslims in Nigeria. Everybody believes in God. We all believe in our duty to help our neighbor and to help our fellow citizens. If you see the victim of an incident, try your best to render assistance. We have this culture now where people will just start filming you on their phone and watch you die, right? We need to stop that. Now, to your point, yes, there is this fear that if I take this person to the hospital and they die on the way or something should happen, or even if nothing happens, police will hold me.
Yes.
It's a problem, right? It touches a little bit on the operational problems that we were discussing earlier, but it's also a cultural issue, right? But it's also police. Let me be honest with you. It's police trying to limit their liability.
Okay.
We live in such a low trust environment. I mean, trust between the police and the public, right? That if police carry a dead body to the morgue, a body they found on the streets, the Nigerians will say it's police that killed that person, right? If police don't hold somebody, have somebody to hold and say, this is the person that brought this dead body to the hospital, or this is the person that brought this accident victim to the police station or whatever. Tomorrow, Nigerians will turn around and say it's police.
Police that killed the person.
Police killed that person. So we too, we have to protect ourselves, right? And the easiest way for us to protect ourselves is to first hold this person that knows what happened until the story, or says he knows what happened, until the story as to what actually happened is clear. We have a system for it. Those kind of cases are usually dealt with as SUD, sudden and unusual deaths. Again, it's something that maybe we could look into how we treat in our curriculum and what we do, right? The hospitals also have a big part to play, right? Hospitals in Nigeria notoriously refuse customers, often for the same reasons, right? Who wants this liability? If this patient comes here and dies, one, who will pay the bill? Two, when the family members come, they will say you use this person for ritual.
We'll explain,
Like you'll be telling story. Nobody wants to tell story. And in this low trust society that we are trudging along in Nigeria, it's a problem. It's a problem for everybody. Those cases are particularly sad for me. Again, when I was off duty, I was in Abuja with my wife. I saw an incident where a driver hit a pedestrian at full speed. Like the pedestrian literally flew in the air and landed, and the boy stopped, luckily. I came down from my car. I said, And the boy was there. He was still in shock. I knew, like, the driver was still in shock, right? I told him, look, put this boy in your car and take him to the hospital, right? There were police officers. This is at Eagle Square. It happened right in front of Eagle Square in Abuja. Police officers everywhere. Soldiers, DSS, civil defense everywhere. None of them wanted to do anything.
Because they were afraid of
Yeah, who wants that kind of liability? Who wants that kind of problem? Maybe your shift is just about to close. Maybe you're thinking about going home, right? And luckily, that boy, we were able to talk to him. He took the guy to the hospital, and I believe the guy actually survived. The pedestrian actually survived. But in other situations, who do you expect to act? Right? So it's something close to me, and it's something I think about all the time. How can we move from this low trust to a more trusting society?
Right. So my last question before I go into cybercrime. Why is it that when a crime or something happens, we can't just pick up the phone, call the Nigerian police, and whoosh, they're there to fight for us and defend us?
Okay. So there are like multiple layers to that question you just asked, right? The first layer is just one of technology and a seriousness in government, right? It's probably the technology needed to have a single phone number that people could use to report incidents is not out of this world. But it requires a level of seriousness in government. Like, it requires paying the bills and maintaining the lines and doing all sorts of stuff. The kind of thing that Nigeria doesn't have a good track record of doing, right? That's one. Two, the question itself, the way you're asking it, reveals a bigger problem we have in Nigeria, right? That there is this big disconnect from urban wants and needs and the needs of the rest of the country, right?
How?
So what you're describing is like an urban solution, right? I'm in Lagos, or I'm in Port Harcourt, or I'm in Abuja. I have an incident. I call the police, and they zoom and they come to my address, right? Yeah, it's because you're thinking of a world, even though those cities are semi-mapped, at least they are semi-mapped, right? Places have street names and street numbers and somewhere you can use and like actually do this thing, right? It shows the big difference between what the urban elites are experiencing and what the rest of the country is experiencing, right? There is a big breakdown of security in the rural areas, right? You're talking about a single number. If you look at the incidences of kidnapping and all the sort of like mass terrorist events, they happen in rural areas, right? Where even if there was a phone number that you could call, it would still take the police 2 hours to get there, right? The most recent, which is something I'm sure you are going to ask me about, this the incident in Kaduna where allegedly 177 people were arrested or were kidnapped from a church. I listened to, I followed the story quite closely, right? And when you listen to the local chiefs and the people from the village, what they describe is that it takes 2 hours to get from the police station to that place. That the road leading to that place is basically impenetrable. If you look at every incident of mass kidnapping in Nigeria, it starts with there's no road to that village, right? So there are parts of it that the police could do. The police, we could get a single number, we could improve our communication, we could improve our rapid response, which are things that they are actually doing, right? The results yet to be seen, but we are doing them, right? But then there are things that the police can't do.
Above you.
We can't build roads. We can't give places street names and street numbers. We can't put a postcode system. There are things that Nigeria has to do, right, to build the general infrastructure of the country that makes it easier for police to work.
Oh, I never thought of it like that. You just think, okay, this system should be able to work in this country also. But yeah, you can't just imitate a copy and paste a system on a society.
So a lot of the security that you feel in the UK here is built on the post office system, right? How did I find this place today? I put your postcode in a map and it showed me where it is, right? Do we have a similar system in Nigeria? My PO box is 900021. That PO box is for everybody who lives in Amak, pretty much, right? That postcode is for everybody who lives. So there are, in Africa, generally in Nigeria in particular, we keep talking about leapfrogging stages of development, right? We are proud that we went from very low landline penetration to very high mobile phone penetration. But then we don't look at what we lost by not getting that landline penetration.
What did we lose?
We lost this interconnectivity, right? And the penetration of the state into the hinterlands, which is the biggest thing we lost, right? And again, it harks back to the colonial experience. The white man didn't come to Nigeria to develop Nigeria. He came to extract resources. So he built infrastructure that enabled the extraction of those resources. He built railways from Kano to Lagos, so from wherever he needed the thing to how he was going to get it to Obodo Oyibo, right? They never penetrated into the actual villages. These places that we are saying are remote now, they are as remote today as they were when the white man left. Right? They had no intention of building out this state apparatus. Things like the reason why they have phone wire here, landline into everybody's house, post office everywhere, the roads, the police system that penetrates every nook and cranny of this country. You can be in an isolated village north of Aberdeen and the bus will still get to you.
Yeah.
Right? That sort of penetration is what is necessary for nation building. The white man didn't even attempt to do it in Nigeria. The British didn't even attempt, right? They just built what they needed. We as the Africans, when we took over, we failed to see the need to do that nation building. Those ungoverned spaces, this insecurity we're talking about in the middle belt and the north and this and that, it's because we failed to build the state out. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? So now that this thing is becoming very obvious that we haven't built out the state capacity, the time to start doing it is now. We need these roads. We need phone wires, electricity wires. We need the infrastructure of a state, and we need to spread it as far and wide as we can.
Wow. No one has ever explained it like that before. It's like we just jumped straight to, internet, Twitter, social media, but then we've forgotten the basic things that we actually need to put in place.
Yeah. So, and sometimes, and again, not to harp on like the urban elite culture that we have, like Nigeria is not Lagos, right? Lagos is maybe 5% of the population and maybe 1% of the landmass, right? Maybe even less, right? It's a very small group of people. But am I still a Lagosian? I don't know. But Lagosians dominate the discourse on Nigeria to such a disproportionate level that they warp conversations about other places. The typical Lagosian has no idea how big Gombe State is. How big. So now they are talking about Kajuru. Kajuru local government is bigger than Lagos. The local government.
Wow.
Much, maybe 4 or 5 times that, but definitely much bigger than Lagos. The distance from the divisional headquarters in that Kajuru local government to that Karamashi village where those people were kidnapped is easily 2 hours inside one local government. Right? We have to do more. We have to do more to paint a fuller picture of Nigeria. It will help us solve our problems.
Maybe also like the Nigerian police needs to improve its social media, and that way you can show people this is what's going on, this is what we're dealing with. And
so I have to give kudos to the Nigeria Police Force public relations team, the current PRO, the former PROs, all the PROs for the states, because they are doing a very, very hard job, right? It's hard. So these things I'm talking about, right? It's just because I'm opportune to be a student here in the UK and I'm able to speak freely to you about them. There's nothing I'm saying that most policemen don't know.
But us, the general public, we don't know this.
Yeah, because the nature of our employment doesn't allow us to have these conversations with you, right? So the police has many. So, for example, I am not talking to you as a police officer because I'm not allowed to. I couldn't come here with my police uniform and have a conversation with you. I'd be in violation of so many rules, right? There are restrictions on how we can communicate, right? In fact, let me take it a bit back, right? Being a police officer is a sacrifice of so many of your rights.
Like,
right?
Yeah.
So, for example, policemen don't vote.
You don't vote?
No, police officers don't vote. Not that we are not constitutionally allowed to vote, but in practice, police don't vote alongside other security agencies because they are too busy securing your democracy on the day of voting.
And is that the same in other countries?
No, so in lots of countries, they may have early voting systems. They may have mailing voting systems that allow everybody to vote. But police don't vote. So as a policeman, I've already given up my franchise, one. Two, I'm not allowed to be in a union. Police cannot unionize, right?
Okay, so that means you can't even come together to talk about your pay or anything.
So collective action is strongly, strongly forbidden, right? So we're not allowed to unionize. We're not allowed to have these sort of discussions. One, because of the colonial roots of the police force in Nigeria. Two, because of the structural importance of the police to Nigeria, right? I can discuss that a little bit, but let me just tell you so that's two. And third is this social media policy, right? The police has an extensive social media policy. I think it was passed by the previous IGP, but it's still in force now. But essentially, I'm not allowed to identify myself as a police officer on social media. That is the long and short of it, right? Unless I'm given specific permission by the police to do so, right? So again, back to the public relations stuff you're talking about. Those guys, they are doing a very good job, right? With limited resources and in a very hostile environment. Nigerians don't want to hear good news about the police. You say, why don't you hear this? They post it. If you follow Ben or you follow any of the PROs from the police, they are constantly posting about the successes of the Nigerian police force. Nobody cares. Nigerians only care when they see a drunk policeman under a tree or when there's something
sleeping.
Oh yeah, somebody sleeping. That's what gingers people. That's what gets reactions every day. So I follow most of the PROs every day. I see the good news. In fact, there was a case I did where we busted. Although the busting was only last week, and I'm here in the UK, and I wasn't involved in the busting, but I was involved in preliminary work. Right, we busted a telecom hacking syndicate that was based out in Kano and it's stealing huge amounts of data from a very big telecoms company in Nigeria, right?
Wow.
That is like in another climb, that's a career-defining case.
That's really, it sounds
people.
cool.
Yeah, that's a career-defining case for people. No traction in Nigeria. Nobody cares.
No news about it.
And we are trying to promote it. We post it on our things, but people aren't talking about it because we don't care about news that makes the police look good. We don't want to hear the police's good news. We only want to hear, because in our heart of hearts, right, we already made up our mind about the police, right? And although I don't want to bring up EndSARS because I know it's going to lead into a whole nother thing, right? But from our point of view, right, that's what EndSARS showed us. That truly, you people hate police. Like truly, there's nothing we will do. There's no change we'll offer. There's no, what will we do that you people will not hate us?
Are you sure maybe you're not looking at it from the wrong point of view?
I'm telling you from my point of view, right? I can only tell you from my point of view. And EndSARS to me was a very touching because, I'm an Ajabo like you people. So all you Ajabo people were calling me during that EndSARS period, what's going on? What are we going to do? I remember that period very clearly, right? And while I'm an Ajabo like you people, I'm still Olokpa, I'm still a police. And so I had the benefits of seeing it from both people's point of view, right? And again, this is another, maybe it's a failing of the police that we weren't able to come out and tell you what happened during that EndSARS period, right? But a lot happened. And it goes to the core of the relationship between the population and the police, right?
Are you allowed to say any of what happened?
I'm not allowed to say any of what
Since
happened.
You're not wearing your police hat or in your uniform. You're just...
So all I can tell you is of my experiences during that period, right? Luckily for me, I wasn't on duty. I was under the mango tree at that time. I was in between postings, right? But I was in Abuja and while I had no posting, I was working very closely with the police people who were close to where I live, right? And at that time, I was staying close to Dutse Alaji in Abuja. And what I would say is that the view of EndSARS that the world got was that narrow 1% view. The view of Lekki, Lagos, Ajabo, rich kids on the streets and It looked peaceful. It looked like fun, right? People were sharing food on the streets. Musicians were playing this. That is not the EndSARS that occurred across the country, right? Even in Abuja, that was one of the days I was scared for my life, right? And I wasn't even, so let me tell you that story. During EndSARS 2020, my wife was pregnant for our first child, right? It was locked down, if you remember. We were supposed to all be at home. We only really went out to go for antenatal classes, right? I would occasionally go to the police station near me or go to force headquarters to go and greet my friends or go to other, but essentially that's what we did. Antenatal day, we are going to antenatal. I drove a Toyota Corolla, a car that I'd owned since law school, right? The same car I'd been driving since law school. I was driving my wife across, so we have to pass Dutse roundabout, right? And as we were coming, we saw the crowd, right, coming the other way. They were burning tires, they were doing this. And me, I was like, okay, like I know these are largely peaceful protesters, but it wasn't looking so peaceful. And then it got to a point the cars couldn't move anymore. So we were stopped in traffic and this mob of people were coming and they start banging on the doors, right? And then when they got to our car, they were banging on the door, say, see him, this one is the Yahoo boy. Bring them out. These are the people stealing the country. Want you. That's when it finally hit me that these people here in Dutse Alaji, which is under Buhari local government or Buhari area council of the FCDA, they don't know what you people in Lagos are talking about, right? What was EndSARS? Some urban youths were complaining that police were harassing them because they look like Yahoo boys, right? And it's spilled over into this series of protests. That mob in Buhari that nearly dragged us out of the car that day, they didn't know what you people were talking about in Lagos. As far as he's concerned, they thought they were protesting against the Yahoo boys. They thought that the Yahoo boys are the ones stealing their money. That's what they were protesting against.
And these are just civilians.
These are civilians. These are children, like youth, I guess you call them. They were young people, right? The people in Lagos who kept pushing this protest didn't know the ramifications of their actions across the country. The country was descending into chaos, right? I can't come out and speak for the police, but I can tell you that police stations were burnt all over the country. I saw videos, the ones that I saw with my eye on our WhatsApp group chat, people forwarding me from different places in the country. I saw videos of police officers being burnt alive, right? There's a popular meme of a young man in Lagos wearing a police uniform on the streets, right? Doing like this, like it was a popular meme that period. People don't know that the man who he took that police uniform from was burnt alive. Since then, I was been in investigation. Luckily, I was in 4CID. I've been privileged to travel across the country. Going to different formations across the country, I can see the effects that EndSARS had that hasn't been resolved. There are police stations in Nigeria that closed during EndSARS in 2020. 2025, they were not open. They've not reopened. There are police officers that went missing during EndSARS. Till today, we don't know what happened to them. But the police has never been able to come out and say, this is what happened, right? The largest voices have been the voices of the rich kids from Lekki, who were able to tell one very specific version of events. I'm not contesting the version of events, so I wasn't there, right? And me, I'm old enough to know that I can't know what happened there, right? I'm mature enough to say something may happen, I don't know, right? But the ones I do know, I see it till today. And we've never had that reckoning. And at that point, right, so you have to imagine what it was so 2020, I was 3 years in police work. There were some people who joined police that year, right? You can only imagine what it meant for a constable who joined police in 2020 to watch a video of Nigerians eating the flesh of a police officer.
Sorry, are you speaking?
I saw the video. Not that I saw it. They in front of a police. I don't want to call the state, right, so that it doesn't become an ethnic thing. But in front of a police station, they dragged the person out, they butchered the person, and they burnt them alive. People came and were taking chunks of the flesh and eating it of a police officer in Nigeria. These things happened, right? What we call unknown gunmen now in Southeast Nigeria, right, was largely fueled by the guns that were stolen from the police stations that those people burnt down. EndSARS for me was one of the biggest turning points in police work. It made me realize that something is fundamentally broken here, right? We in the police or I don't know if it's for everybody, for at least for me, I thought that, okay, Nigerians kind of tolerate us like an annoying little brother, right? They hate some of the things we do, but they realize that this is our brother.
You still have to live with you.
Yeah, we love these people and all is well. EndSARS ended that illusion for many police officers, right? They came to see that truly Nigerians don't love us. Truly, if they could kill us all, they would kill us all. That's what it looked like, right? And not enough is being done to remedy that relationship, in my opinion, right? Of course, I'm generalizing, right? And it was just one moment in time. And it was only one, and again, it was a very youth movement, right? But something needs to be done. That level of anger that the country showed, it's still there. It's still there. And unfortunately for us, right, as police officers, we are the only hand of government that people see. Is what I've come to realize since then. So in 2020, 2021, I was like, man, these people, they hate police. They don't love us. Over time, I've come to realize that Nigerians are actually unhappy with the Nigerian state, right? Unfortunately for police, police is the only bit of the Nigerian state that most Nigerians tend to see, right? You've never seen anybody from NNPC. You've never seen anybody from CBN. You've never seen anybody from Ministry of Finance. You've never seen it, but you see police on your streets, right? So when you want to show that frustration, when you want to vent your anger, the only people who you have, your available victims, are the police, right? And what we fail to realize is that the police is you. There's only one thing every single policeman since 1960 to date has in common, and that's that they are Nigerian. We didn't bring any policeman from anywhere. They're all Nigerians. They are you, they are me. So we have to fix it. We have to fix this relationship.
That was really heavy. Okay, let's move on to cybersecurity. Okay, so what's it like? What's your day-to-day role, working in cybersecurity?
Okay, so my role is particularly varied. I'm an investigator and a prosecutor. I work for the legal unit of the National Cybercrime Center. I don't really have a typical day, but I tend to group my cases into three groups, right? One I will call financial institution cases, right? Either a fintech has been hacked, or a bank has been hacked, or a bank worries about the activities of one of their staff or something. And that's a big chunk of my casework. And in all honesty, that's the type of casework I like to do, right? Because I have a bit of a corporate background and I gel well with the corporate guys, and like it's easy and it's fun. Well, let me not say it's easy, but it's fun, and it teaches me a lot about the financial institutions, right? Then there are another set of cases where I'll call like typical Yahoo cases, reported Yahoo cases, right? Somebody says I was scammed of XYZ, romance scam, or maybe sextortion, or some other like local or foreign fraud case, right? Those are often interesting, right? And they teach you more about the grassroots of Nigeria, how Yahoo has penetrated our culture, right? And what it means for the economy and all that kind of stuff. Interesting. But I would say they're my second. I definitely prefer the corporate cases to the Yahoo Boy cases for a number of reasons. One, the Yahoo Boy cases, like, they tend to have a tinge of sadness, right? Because even the most cleverest, or even the cleverest Yahoo Boy is usually doing it out of some desperation. There's some underlying sadness, some need, some parent who died too young, some mother who's sick, some abandonment, some family responsibility that ultimately drove them. So it's tinged with sadness. Although sometimes it's hilarious, but often it's tinged with sadness, right? So I'm not often as keen on those. The third set or group of cases that I have to deal with are the ones I hate the most. And they are like what we call cyber stalking, cyber bullying cases, where somebody says, so person on the internet insulted me, you should go and arrest him. The worst.
I see those a lot online.
Yeah, they're very popular. And we as police, we can't really refuse cases, right? We have a duty to investigate. If somebody reports something, we have to investigate it. I can't, as an investigator, just look at the petition and say this thing has no merit. I still have to investigate and bring up a report. Even if I feel it's a civil matter and it shouldn't be criminally investigated, you still have to do work to get to that point of. So those are my least favorite cases. I would advise ultimately, I would advise that we should review the laws around Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act, although there has been a review, but it's still being abused. It's not the duty of the Nigerian state to punish your enemies or to settle your fights or to do They are always the worst. The complainants, as the people reporting, are usually terrible human beings themselves. The suspects who you're going to arrest or interview or whatever are also terrible humans themselves. Nobody really wants a good outcome. They just want to roll around in the mud.
Bully people.
Yeah, so I hate those cases.
How much of a threat to Nigeria is cybercrime?
So it depends on how you define cybercrime. So I tend to think of cyber and cyber-enabled crime, which is a big category of things. The statistics are hard to say, but like the OECD is guessing that 90% of crimes will have some cyber elements in them. In Nigeria specifically, right, cybercrime is a big thing in two ways. One, on the cost to business, right? The level of crime we have is essentially like an additional interest rate on big businesses. Right? If you operate at scale in Nigeria, you have to expect some level of fraud, some level of cybercrime to affect you, right? We are working hard to bring that down and like to target specific types of cybercrime as they affect specific industries, but it's a problem. That's one part. The worst part of cybercrime in Nigeria is the cultural effect it's had on our people.
Can you explain that?
Okay, let me go back a little bit, right? Nigeria is a poor country. People are poor, right? We don't like to say it, right? When we discuss Nigeria, we're always like, oh, Nigeria is a country blessed with huge mineral and human resources and da-da-da-da-da-da. All true. But in actual fact, Nigeria is poor. People are poor, right? There was I think it was NIBS that did a survey 2 years ago that only 2% of accounts in Nigeria hold more than 500,000 naira inside, right? People are genuinely poor. Everybody, the biggest problem we have in Nigeria is poverty. Most of these things I talk about, culture, police, this. If we solve poverty, most of those stuff will alleviate, right? This generation, I'll say this Gen Z, and arguably we the millennials as well, saw it a little bit earlier, that the Nigerian state, as it's set up, is not going to solve their poverty problem. Like the government, the state, Nigeria is not going to take you out of poverty, right? We came to realize that. I think Gen Z is realizing that, and I only wonder what's going to happen with Generation Alpha. So in that world where you're poor and you don't see a means of escaping poverty, right? Yahoo is the perfect solution for a young person, right? Fraud. Because unlike other means to escape poverty, so something like, let's take the oil and gas sector. We are both Shell children, so at least, we have some background in it, right? Oil and gas can take somebody out of poverty, right? My father was born into poverty, survived the Civil War, he came out of poverty, he joined an oil company and was able to escape poverty, at least for him and his children, right? Something that can happen. Today, how do you join an oil company?
You need connection now.
You need some very serious connection,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just using oil company because I'm familiar with that one. But it's the same for banking. It's the same for high-end lawyers. It's the same for all these things, right?
Yeah.
The true avenues to escape poverty in Nigeria, the people that have that knowledge guard it so closely, is not available to anybody. The only sector of the economy today where you can decide, I want to start learning, and somebody will teach you for free, is fraud. It is the only avenue of social mobility available to so many people, right? Somebody from your village can call you. He has moved to Abuja. He can call you, say, you come with 3 of your cousins, come to Abuja, come and stay with me. I'm going to teach you work. What's the work he's teaching you? It's fraud, right? Why is it a problem? right? One, it's bad for Nigeria's image. It's bad. That's the level of fraud is bad for the economy. It's bad for business. It's bad for that. But it teaches people that, or it messes with people's alignment of work and reward, right? If you have tasted Yahoo money, especially as a young man or as a young woman, if you have tasted Yahoo money, you've hit $2,000 before, right? It is very hard for you to go and get a legitimate job. Somewhere you did this work, you were up in the night for like 3 weeks straight, you worked hard, but in that 3 weeks, you made $2,000. There's no job you do in Nigeria that will pay you that money.
In 3 weeks.
Even in 1 year, $2,000 is like what? Nearly like 3.5, 4 million, nearly 4 million. Where would you, how many jobs are paying 3 million a year? Right? Once you taste that Yahoo money, it's very hard to do anything legitimate. Right? And so we have this generation of young persons that are, and Yahoo money is not forever. You may, yesterday's taker is not tomorrow's taker.
Yeah.
That scam you're running today, tomorrow it will dry up, right? You don't see men in their 40s, or you do see some, but you don't see many men in their 40s and 50s that are still doing fraud that is paying, right? It's a young man's game, right? They will age out of that bracket where they can even make this money. Then what becomes of them? The ones that are smart will use their money and do other things. But Yahoo boys are not smart, right? I was reading a statistic that more than half of NBA players, right, become broke within 5 years of retiring from the NBA.
After all that money.
After all that money. Somebody should go and do a similar study for Yahoo boys.
Wow.
Because they all end up broke. You can never use bad money to do a good something. All of them. Even the ones you think are successful and have managed, they are not. It's lies. You can, like, I'm not the most spiritual or religious person, but I have a basic idea of karma, right? You can't build something on nothing. That money you took from that poor old lady in Germany, it's a weight on your soul. It will continue to be a weight on your soul. Nothing can be good for you while you are living on the suffering of others, right? And a big part of the societal problems we have, betting, drug addiction, prostitution, all these things that are running rampant in like young people now, it comes from this Yahoo culture.
Of quick money.
Yeah, quick money. And so we have to stop and look at ourselves and say, what kind of society are we building? Where do we want to be? Right? Is poverty not better? And so the real worst part of all of this is that Yahoo doesn't take you out of poverty. It just gives you designer clothes. You are wearing that Balenciaga, but tomorrow if your mother falls sick, can you solve her problem? Like, Yahoo doesn't change anything. It just allows you to be the king of the poor people. So yeah, I don't know what, so that is where I think the level is now. And it's so structural, right? That we have factories for producing new Yahoo boys, you know?
I thought it was just, I saw that in like an online Nigerian series, but I didn't know that was real.
So I know the specific series you're talking about. Yeah. We took issue with that in my office because they used the name of our office, National Cybercrime Center. Yeah, they didn't inform us. They didn't come and let's give them some details. We are waiting for our consultancy fee. You people know yourselves. We are waiting to be paid, right? It was a good show. I enjoyed it. Very good series, right? They glamorized what the factories look like. But in principle, it happens, right? A semi-successful criminal will recruit other criminals. He will then provide the infrastructure they need for their criminal enterprise. Laptops, modems, all that kind of stuff. He will then give them a business model. Sometimes he may even give them a script to work from or scripts to work from, and then tell them, usually it involves some division of labor. So you might be running the phishing part, somebody will be running the social engineering part that's talking to the victim, and then somebody else is doing the money laundering part, somebody else is, so there is it happens. But it's a pipeline, right? Parents are even encouraging their children to go and learn fraud. Parents will say, you see your mate, why can you not go? So we need to address this culture. We need to address it and see what we can do about it. But at the same time, there are also Nigerians who are doing very well in the cybersecurity areas, right? There is a big thirst for cybersecurity experts in Nigeria and all over the world. And Nigerians are really stepping up. Lots of them are getting the qualifications, getting the jobs, getting the skills. And hopefully we'll see that yield results in the long run.
Can you let us know about your best case, your best bust? What happened?
What's my best one? Okay, so let me tell you two cases.
Okay.
One I like and one is more. And this one, I'm sorry, I may get in trouble for naming the company, but the information is in the public sphere. So I don't feel so bad. In 2024, Flutterwave, which is the first Nigerian unicorn, first Nigerian fintech worth $1 billion, shout out Flutterwave, they got hacked, right, by a sophisticated syndicate who were able to create some fake profiles and do some fraudulent transactions and move the money to a bunch of mule accounts, right? The total amount was quite large. It was in the billions of naira, in the millions of dollars. And they used individuals who are dealing cryptocurrency to launder that money. So lots of Nigerians use crypto, either stable coins like USDT or other cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum and the likes. But this one was specifically targeted at people who use USDT. So yeah, this money was laundered through about 3,000 people, right? Till today, it's the biggest single case in terms of the breadth of the case, right? So in April 2024, not just me, my team, we blocked something like 4,000 accounts of Nigerians at once. I have to believe that it has to be the biggest single blocking of accounts anybody has ever done in the history of Nigeria, right? We blocked a bunch of accounts in an attempt to salvage the money, right? Without boring you on the details, we were able to salvage a huge chunk of money, right? I can pound my chest and say, I've never seen $1 million in my account before, but I've recovered $1 million for somebody before. You know, we made lots of arrests and this and that. And so that for me was personally one of the highlights of my time in cybercrime. It raised my profile, right? Because it was such a big case. And it wasn't like somebody carried the case and brought to me, right? It wasn't a petition or something. It was something that we got some intelligence that some people had more money than they should have. We went and investigated and we walked it back and we realized Flutterwave didn't approach me, we approached them, right? And so for me, it was a personal moment of pride because up until that point, I'd been chasing up lots of loose ends that hadn't worked out, a lot of cases that hadn't worked out, a lot of cases. But this one, I chased it and it's worked out and it was the beginning of a very good relationship. So shout out Flutterwave. They are actually very invested in the cybersecurity architecture of Nigeria. They are the CEO of Flutterwave is the one who wrote my letter of recommendation to Oxford. Wow. Perhaps with him, I wouldn't have gotten, without him, I wouldn't have gotten in. So again, shout out to them. Probably one of the biggest cases of my career. So that's one. The other case that was very, very high profile was almost exactly a year later, actually, in March, maybe 2025, February or March 2025. I got a call on a Sunday. I was in my house. I got a call from my Oga that I should come and meet him at Zone 7, which is not our office, another police office. I went there and there was a lot of talk, chatter. The story wasn't clear. They said we should all follow them to a compound in Jabi. We went to the compound in Jabi and I've never seen anything like it in my life. Long and short of the story, we arrested 113 foreign nationals. I think 67 of them were Chinese, some from Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, the Philippines, and 4 persons from Brazil.
What were they doing there?
So at the time, I didn't know what they were doing there. Let me not lie. Like, it was clear to me they were doing something dodgy, but I didn't know. Now that I'm here in Oxford and I've done a little bit of research, I know exactly what they were doing. They were running a pig butchering farm, right? Which is a specific type of scam that originated in China, but has spread through Southeast Asia and is now making its way across the world. Essentially, it's
pig butchering.
Pig butchering is a transliteration of a Chinese term that literally means pig butchering. It's a scam that combines phishing, social engineering, and cryptocurrency. somebody reaches out to you via WhatsApp or some other messaging app and tells you, oh, sorry, it was the wrong number. But since you're there, you get talking. You talk with the person, and the person gains your confidence over a long period of time. After a while, they ask you, or they tell you that they are rich and they have become rich by investing in crypto, trading, something, right? And then they convince you to invest in that same thing. It always starts off small. You invest a little bit, you get a little bit back. You invest a little bit, you get a little bit back. Then that's the fattening up phase, right? They're fattening you up. And then at some point, they tell you that to actually get the whole of your money back, you have to sell the farm. You have to go in. You have to invest hundreds of thousands, whatever it is, right? And then when you invest that money, they slaughter the pig. That means they cut off ties with you. You never see the person again. It's a very popular scam. Initially, it used to target like Chinese, Southeast Asia, Singapore. Over the last few years, they've reached to the English-speaking world, like Europe and North America. And so what's interesting to me is that the syndicate that we caught in Abuja, they also had amongst them 4 people from Brazil. Right? In hindsight now, I know that those people were brought specifically to target victims in the Portuguese-speaking world, maybe in Portugal or Brazil or that type of stuff, right? And they were running it from Nigeria.
Yeah, and people will think that it's Nigerians doing it.
Yeah, so when they check the IP addresses, it will look like these are scams, but it was actually a sophisticated Chinese criminal gang that was running it, right? And so it was high profile. We made the arrests. We got the convictions for most, and we have deported most of them, right? That was a very big case. But for me, that was the tip of the iceberg, right? So now knowing what I know, like, is the benefit of coming to an institution like Oxford and being able to mix with other people who are leaders in their field in cybersecurity and law enforcement. And I've been able to talk to people from Singapore in particular, where they are dealing with this thing. And it's clear to me that that syndicate we found in Abuja is not the only one operating in Nigeria, right? In fact, the EFCC also busted a similar group in Lagos, right? So Abuja and Lagos, at least 2 incidents. And if you look at the history of its spread across the world, you know that those 2 incidents are likely they are not isolated incidents. They're probably related to a bigger. So to me, it's now I'm very gingered. I can't wait to go home so that we can actually bust these guys and get this and pursue them. Let them go and do this in another country. They should leave us, abeg.
Do you ever deal with international attacks, international cyber attacks?
Yeah, so the Nigerian Cybercrime, the National Cybercrime Center was actually carved out of the cybercrime units of Interpol. So before the police had its own standalone cybercrime center, the Nigerian Police, NCB, that's the Nigerian Interpol, had a cybercrime unit. So we still receive complaints from foreign countries. They tend to be about scams, right? Romance scams and sextortion are very popular. Sextortion is a growing area. Yeah, but there was a case I did involving, again, shout out to Leatherback. To the people who are our friends, let me be friendly. Shout out to Leatherback. It's a big fintech that does cross-border payments, right? They essentially allow you to move money internationally, and they're focused on remittances and that type of stuff for the Nigerian diaspora. There was a case I did that involved them and a syndicate of people based here in the UK that were trying to use their platform to defraud people in Nigeria, based in the UK and Dubai, to defraud people in Nigeria on the guise of changing money. So we do there's a lot of international cases. The cybercrime is beautiful because computers don't know borders, right? So somebody attacking your phone in Nigeria could actually be in China and vice versa. Yeah.
How can Nigerians support the Nigerian police? Because you've explained a lot, like a lot of things you've said now make me understand why certain things are happening and make me see the Nigerian police as just, our fellow Nigerians that are trying to do their job and might have all these different hindrances which are affecting what they're trying to do. So how can Nigerians support you?
So, okay, there are many ways. The first of all is police is your friend, right? So be friendly with police. Like I said, we're all Nigerians, we're all human beings, right? Even that guy you see at the junction with a strong face, you don't know if his face is strong because he's thirsty or he hasn't eaten that day. Take an interest in people as human beings, not as a police officer or anything. Just take an interest in the people you see every day, the people who you need. Like, life is community-based. That community you're in, there is a police station there, or a police outpost or something. Have you been there before? Do you know where it is? Is it the day that you have emergency that you start looking for the police station? Go there, look for what their need could be. I'm not saying you should go and drop money or do anything. No. It could be something simple as they are looking for people to help them cut the grass. Right? You don't know what the need of a specific police station is. If you're able to get involved in your local PCRC or your local neighborhood watch or any of those things, try and get involved. That's how you will actually be able to support them in their operational capacity. Beyond that, we have to be citizens of Nigeria, right? Is one thing, and again, it's a big thing in our generation. We, the millennials and the Gen Z, we love to talk on the internet, right? Internet talk has never done anything for anybody. Sorry, I know that sounds very harsh. But it's not by sitting in Lagos and complaining, or by sitting on Twitter and complaining, right, about police this, government that. What are you doing, right? We live in a democracy where we are supposed to be able to use the levers of this democracy to affect governance in our day-to-day lives, right? I'm telling you that or you may or may not believe me, I may or may not be right? Go and investigate. If you find that your local police station doesn't have enough vehicles, or the compound of the police station is not all the way fenced, right? Ask yourself, who is supposed to do this? Who was supposed to fence? How is this thing supposed to get fenced? And then ask yourself, now that I can see that it hasn't been done, what can me as a citizen do? Do I have a local government chairman? Do I have a House of Reps member? Do I have a senator? Do I have a governor? What pressure am I applying on them to ensure that this institute, because police is, right now, Nigerians see that police is for the governor, it's for the states, it's for the government. Police is not for the government, it's for you. You have to decide what kind of police do you want and what are you doing to ensure that you're getting that police. That's the cocoa of it. Everybody's unhappy. Right? Nigeria is a country where everybody's happy to tell you how unhappy they are. Nothing works. Everything is bad. Police is terrible. The army is this. The roads are bad. The places. What have you done? What did you do to make it better? Is it just to sit there and complain? Do you pay taxes? If you pay your taxes, are you not asking them, what are you doing with these taxes? How do the taxes you pay result in a better quality of policing for me, or a better quality of life for me? We have to take the responsibility of a democracy on our head. It's not just to wait for every 4 years and go and vote. You actually have to use the system.
You're right. We should speak up. We should complain to the government. But the thing is, even when citizens complain to the government, the politicians still use the police against them.
Against them?
Yes.
So, okay, I wouldn't 100% agree and say that police are ever against the people, right? It may appear that way sometimes, particularly in the context of protest, right? And without just repeating myself a lot, but the police is a colonial organization. That's where it was founded. And our response to protests have been framed by that colonial setup, right? If you think back to colonial times, there were things like the Aba Women's Riot and this and that, where police were used to maintain the state. Let's use that euphemism, right? When the colonialists left, the Nigerian elite that took over did not make sufficient attempts to change that policing relationship. Yeah. Police is more set up to protect the state interest. I agree. However, we're not there against the people. There is a deeper problem, though, that let me first criticize the police, right? Which is what I always avoid criticizing my organization but they're my people, so let me speak freely, right? We need to review our curriculum as to how we deal with mass gatherings and protests, right? If all you have is tear gas and bullets, all you can use is tear gas and bullets, right? There are other techniques that the police could try and develop more. That will be costly, but there are things sort of kettling, movement control mechanisms, the use of mounted horses, the use of mounted troops, the use of dogs. There are things that we could do that will change the way in which we police large crowds, right? But for now, there is a difficulty, I will admit, in policing large crowds. Nigerians are unruly, particularly when they're in good number, right? Once they get the anonymity of a mob, people do things that they would not normally do, right? Every gathering has the high propensity to devolve into a mob, right? And often when people say protest, again, I'll use the EndSARS as an example. When people say protest, they're talking about their bourgeoisie protest. They're talking about their Twitter protesters. They're talking about the people who are university graduates, people who are doing NYSC, people who maybe both their parents are university graduates, right? They are talking about them. They are saying, we are organizing this protest, right? They are doing it to the exclusion of the masses. The second the masses come and join the protest, they'll say the protest was hijacked. As the typical format for Nigerian protest. Day one, bourgeoisie people come out. Tush, good-looking people, smelling fresh, maybe with printed T-shirts, or with a slogan. There's music, there's suya, there's lots of hashtags, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Day two, some of the unemployed youths who the middle class hates come and start joining the protest. Those ones don't care about your fancy T-shirts. They are looking to rob a yogurt store. Or they are looking to, just be a nuisance. And as soon as that happens, the bourgeoisie will come out and say, oh, they have hijacked our protest. This is not what we want, right? That big divide between the haves and the have-nots. When we say the right to protest, what we mean is the bourgeoisie right to protest. Even the bourgeois in Nigeria, they don't want those poor people on the streets. Because they are again, back to EndSARS. Do you know the number of shops that were looted around the country during EndSARS? Those things that they were saying, palliatives are being recovered from most of the time, those were stuff stolen from people's shops. Warehouses were ransacked. And people's things were stolen and packed on the streets. I'm sure maybe there were some palliatives inside, though. I don't know. I'm mature enough to know what I know and don't know. But I know for a fact that people's lorries were stopped on the road and their goods were taken, right? The type of protest that poor people want to do is a protest of hunger, is a protest of destruction, right? It's not what the Twitterati are interested in, right? And so we as a police force, we're always stuck, right? We try and tell these people that, look, we respect your right to protest, but you people have to work very closely with us to make sure that tomorrow you will not say it's hijacked. Right? And you actually do. Abuja is actually so I can speak very clearly about it because it's my town now. I go there, I live there and I see it a lot. There are actually, if you cooperate with the Commissioner of Police for the FCT, they can arrange a very good route for a gathering of thousands of persons to pass peacefully and safely and be managed. If you don't cooperate with the FCT commissioner, anything you see, you have to take it like that, right? And then you think of the tough position that police are often placed in, right? Where young people are on the streets, they are being asked to disperse. The owners of the house are calling police saying, we don't feel safe. There's a gang of people outside. They say they are protesting, but all we can see is that they are burning tire, right? Whose rights then are we to protect? You, the young person that wants to voice your anger at the regime, or the property owner, the business owner who is scared for their livelihood? If you people burn this shop tomorrow, are you going to buy her another one? Are you going to feed her children? Are you going to pay her school fees? So we are always stuck. So it's tough. I acknowledge that police, we can do more. There are things we could do to learn to be better able to deal with the Nigerian crowd. We need to take some of the learning experiences from all over the world and adapt them specifically to the Nigerian context, right? Because we have a very unique set of individuals we are dealing with in Nigeria. But to say that the police are working for the police, we are not working for the police. We love Nigerians. Nobody loves Nigeria more than police. Okay. If not, for you to do this job, for what you described as very low pay, right? What I've told you is a sacrifice of your right to vote, your right to free assembly, your right to free expression. So many of your rights you give up. Most policemen live in a separate state from where their wife and children live, right? They give up their right to family life for the sake of Nigeria. Nobody can love Nigeria more than that.
You do have a very good point there, to be honest. But why is it that, well, if you're working for the people and not the rich or not the politicians, why is it that a rich person can just hire a Nigerian police officer to be walking around with them or carrying their handbag or opening their door?
So that's a very good question. It has a number of answers. Partly, again, it's a colonial relic. The Oyibo big man liked to have boys following him around, and we kind of kept that when they left. Secondly, there's an economic reason to it, and not like a corruption reason. I'll get to that in a bit. But there's an economic reason to it, right? Nigeria has a very varied security landscape, right? While business headquarters are often in Lagos or sometimes in Port Harcourt or wherever, their business operations are often in the hinterland, right? Deep inside some bush or deep inside some place where they are farming the cocoa or where they are mining the gypsum or where they are doing the whatever, right? And particularly in the developmental history of Nigeria, it was the oil and gas sector. Yeah. That's where this thing actually started, right? So Shell had their headquarters in Warri or Port Harcourt, but their fields are in Olobiri, they are in all these watery areas in Bayelsa, right? The state had not extended its reach into every nook and cranny of Nigeria. So it made sense to assign police officers to them to enable these people to do business, right? That is still the underlying logic for the assignment of police to people. I was in Counter-terrorism unit. I was the admin officer. So I dealt directly with people applying for protection, right? Individuals in Nigeria cannot apply for police protection. The people, you can only, as a company, apply for police protection. And when you apply as a company, you have to give us the reasons of why you're actually applying, why you feel your particular business poses some risk to whatever and you need special protection. The powers that be will assess your application and decide. That's different. Constitutionally, or let me say, constitutionally and semi-constitutionally, we have people who are entitled to police protection, right? The president, the vice president, and their families, the governors, the deputy governors, the senate president, Traditionally, under military rule, right, many of these positions were occupied by military men, right, who themselves would have bagmen or orderlies or whatever, right? That culture got transferred to civilian rule, so that even a minister who has never been a soldier expects to have an orderly, right? So expects to have an escort commander. So the politicians came to expect that certain appointments came with police protection, right? Which is, we can agree whether that's correct or not. When they retire from that position, they also want to keep the policemen with them. That's a big problem. So luckily, 24th of November, I think last year, the president made an announcement about the withdrawal of police protection from VIPs and asked for the civil defense to take over those duties. I think we're in the process of the transition. Let's see how it goes, right? Now to the economics of it, right? So previously we talked about the operational challenges that you have in any police formation, right? Whatever you need, you don't have enough of it, right? And I may get in trouble for saying it, maybe the police will not like to hear it, but that's just the truth, right? We don't have enough of it. If it's paper, if it's car, if it's ink, if it's fuel, if it's lights, if it's whatever it is you feel you need to do your work, you don't have enough of it, right? You have commanders who are in charge of operational units. Say you're the commander of a Mopo unit. You have maybe 60 men under your command, right? You're asked to make these men available to be able to do X, Y, Z, respond to this threat, that threat, right? You may come to realize, that it is better for me to keep, say I have 60 men, it's better for me to keep 40 men on ground and post 20 men to persons who will pay. So that when they pay, I can use those resources to ensure that we have fuel, we have moto, we have this, we have that, we have that. Right? You may choose to. In like political theory, they call it the dirty hands problem, right? You are weighing something that you may not think is morally good against the moral good you're trying to achieve.
The
right?
necessities you need,
Yeah, so you need this necessity. So there is an economics to it, right? Another thing I would say, which will probably also get me in trouble, is that there is a culture of returns, right? This is not my opinion. Luckily, I've never had to make returns to any senior officer, and I've never asked any junior officer to make returns to me, right? But when you read the literature about Nigerian police and the panels that were set up about police reform and this and that, they mention it as an overwhelming culture where some officers expect people under them to make returns. If you're giving 60 men as a commander and somebody above you is expecting you to make returns, where are you supposed to manufacture the money from?
That's true.
Right? Then there are people, and this is from my experience, there are people who have learned to game the system. Like I told you, only companies are supposed to apply for this police protection, and there are very stringent requirements for this, right? But say I'm a know my way kind of guy, right? And I've managed to get approval for some fictional company, right? To have, and for whatever reason, the police establishment has assigned 12 policemen to me, right? I can then set up a business where I rent out luxury cars accompanied by an armed police officer, which is those kind of middlemen is where 90% of all these all these people you see that you think, how did this guy get this police security? That's how they are getting. They're not getting them from police. They are getting them from corrupt Nigerians who have decided to game the system. It's a big problem, right? Solving it will have political ramifications with the politicians, right? It will have economic ramifications for the businesses, and it will have like cultural ramifications for us within the police. But I think it's something that has to be done. One, to send the right signals to Nigerians as to what type of police we want to run, right? And I'm glad that the president made this announcement. I hope we are able to actually resolve it, right? Because whenever you try and do something big like this, say you're going to withdraw VIP protection, there will be a lot of pushback.
Yes, definitely.
There'll be a lot of pushback. So I hope this administration, this presidency, this IG, they have the fortitude to push it through, right? We need to clear up the ambiguities, right? Who do we mean by VIPs? I think Nigerians are not happy to see, for example, a low-grade celebrity walking around
with
or maybe
police officer
or a politician's child walking around with it. But we would all agree that maybe Dangote refinery needs police officers to be stationed there, right? Or that
because that's a business also.
Yeah. So we can agree that there are some legitimate uses for private protection. And so if we agree that Dangote refinery needs police protection, what do we think? Who do we think is supposed to pay for it? Right? That's the next questions we have to agree as Nigerians. The police have a system called POSAP. I don't know what the acronym means, but it's a system where we are supposed to make transparent and standardize the payment of police services, including special protection. It's something that we need to maybe make more robust, but Nigerians need to be aware of it, and we need to, there is a system, let's try and use it.
You mentioned that you were in the Counter-terrorism unit. Did you ever, have any face-off with any terrorists? Or
okay, I didn't. I was in the Counter-terrorism unit as Force Headquarters, which is like the operational headquarters for the unit. I was a PA to the AIG in charge of the unit, and then I was the admin officer for the entire unit. So most of my work was listening to people complain about their postings and the distribution of the resources available and that type of stuff. But what I really engaged in was the training. Like I tried to get as much training to as many of the people on the ground as possible while I was there. If I can be perfectly honest, the police setup for counterterrorism when I was there wasn't quite a good fit for the nature of terrorism in Nigeria, right? The counterterrorism unit we had was highly operational. That means we were very good at carry gun, right? Until today in Nigeria, red berets. If you see a policeman with a red beret, those are the best trained police officers. Ask anybody, the best trained police officers available, right? The CTU boys are very good, right, at operational work. The combat against terrorism in Nigeria needs more than just that operational capacity. It needs a high level of intelligence and a high level of investigation, which is where I think we're lacking a little bit. When we were there, we set up and then tried to strengthen what we called CTUI, which was an intelligence unit of the counter-terrorism unit. I think it needs to be built on. They need to do more there. And I think we need to have a counter-terrorism investigation unit. Right? The biggest challenge I feel, so most of my career in police, I've been an investigator. I'm an investigator by nature, is what I like to do. Right? Most of the problems I face in investigation personally, is the short turnaround, very close deadlines, right? Somebody writes a petition this week, the case is assigned to you this week, they want the answer by next Monday. They want you to resolve this case in 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever. Nobody is interested in a 2, 3, 4 year investigation, right? Something like counterterrorism, we need to have a unit that they are so well taken care of, right, that they can focus on investigating one case for 4 years. So I think that's where we need to move to from the police point of view. In a national framework, we need to improve the coordination between the police and the army and all these other units, right? That is the responsive part. But we have to be proactive, right? What we are calling terrorism, all this kidnapping and this is as a result of ungoverned spaces, right? We need to reduce the distance of the citizens to government, right? Nobody should feel that some ragtag group of bandits is more of a government than the government. Right? We have to bring governments to every nook and cranny, every creek, every mountain, every rock in Nigeria, so that somebody in an unheard of village, in an unheard of local government, in a north central state feels just as secure as the people living in Ikoyi.
Just in rounding up, why is it that with all the years that, the banditry and stuff's been happening in Nigeria, till now, we've not been able to put an end to it?
Why haven't we been able to put an end to it? Banditry is a business, right? It's profitable. Like, the same things that are driving people to Yahoo are the same things that are driving people to banditry. There's a sense of hopelessness that you can somehow see in the Nigerian youth. And we in the South think is bad, right? But in the North, it's something else. Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children, depending on who you believe. Somewhere between 10 or 20 million children are not in school today, right? But what happens to those children when they phase out of the school age? 2019, I worked with Kaduna State Government. I was a Kashmir Ibrahim Fellow. I was posted to Kaduna State Government House. Part of the things we did, we went all around the state. One of the things I did was I went to see the IRT, which is the Abakari's team then. And they were stationed in Katari, which is a village on the road between Abuja and Kaduna. And so I went in there, I was talking to them, and the guy, Sonny, who was the deputy head of the unit there, was like, let's go and see the kidnappers. And they were still called kidnappers. We hadn't started calling them bandits. They were like, let's go and see the kidnappers. I walked in, there were like maybe 50 people in a cell. I swear to God, the oldest one of them was 22 years old. They're all children, 16, 17, 18-year-old children. They were interviewing one of them. So I can understand a little bit of Hausa, but my Hausa is not great. They were interpreting for me. Say, where are you from? He's like, I'm from so village. He described his life. He had done Almajiri stuff. He had begged. He had done this. He wanted to go back. He wanted to make something of himself. No work doing. He tried to learn how to be a driver of trailer, but the brother who said he was going to teach him died, as well, he never learned. And eventually he went into the bush where people gave him gun and made him a kidnapper. How much are they paying them? He said they pay him 35,000 naira per job. This boy was like maybe 17 or 18 years old. They are kidnapping people, collecting a ransom of millions. They are paying you 35K, right? This is somebody who has killed people. According to him, he has killed people, right? What is the driver of that thing? That boy is no more evil than my child or your child. It's just poverty. It's just circumstance. If we had created opportunities for that boy early in his life, by 18 years old, he will not be considered. None of those kidnappers want to be kidnappers. None of those bandits really want to be bandits. You do have some that are ideological, that are truly ideological, not the ones that are just going along with it. But they are few. Most of the people engaged in any crime in Nigeria, serious crime, is hunger that drove them there. We have to solve poverty. It's the biggest thing, right? We have to close the gap between the North and the South in terms of educational outcomes. We have to educate people en masse. Like all these other things we're doing is we're solving a problem that has already been created. By the time this boy goes and sits in the bush with his gun, it's too late. We have to solve it before he ever thinks of this thing as a way of life.
My final question. How does the police feel about social media activists going around and saying that they're chasing kidnappers or they're chasing this criminal and that criminal?
How do the police feel? I don't know what the institutional feeling is, right? Me personally, I don't like it. If you want to be a police officer, go and apply and become a police officer, right? You should not exercise powers that are beyond your remit. That said, we always accept the cooperation of people. If you really want to cooperate with police, there are channels to do it. I don't think there's any police station in the world where somebody will say, look, I want to help you do something, and the police will say, we don't want, right? If that's truly your aim, cooperate with the police. Now, I don't know who you're speaking about particular, but I've seen a few of them on social media.
Yes. Would you like me to name names? Or
me, I don't know their names. So if you name them, it won't make any difference to me, but you can name them if you like, right? What I would say is that some people, their work is social media, right? That's what they use and feed their children. It's all content. If the content they have decided to make is anti-kidnapping, adventure, TikTok, fine. Make it, chop, eat, my brother, feed your children. I cannot begrudge you, right? But that is not what is going to solve the problems of Nigerians, right? And with many things in Nigeria, what you find is that the alleged good Samaritan is actually the snake in disguise. Be you warned. Nothing is free, even in Freetown.
Wow. So, thank you so much, Superintendent Enyinna Chukwueke.
Thank you.
Do you have any final words to people out there? To your Nigerians out there?
So, what are my final words to Nigerians out there? So, just try and be better, right? Nigeria is only as good as we make it. Everything is only as good as we make it. If you don't like the things you see, the way Nigeria is, the change actually starts with you. Think, what can you as an individual do to be better? Do to make Nigeria better? It could be that you want to join the police force as a way of making Nigeria better. It could be that you just decide to be a better citizen, obey the laws, do more, pay your taxes, whatever it is. But be deliberate. Decide, this is how we are going to save Nigeria, and let's get on with doing it.
Thank you very much for watching. So has your view on the Nigerian police force changed? Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, thank you. That was longer than